Okay, welcome back, everybody. We're here again with Dr. Sue Peacock. Welcome back again, Dr. Sue.
Thank you very much for inviting me back.
We're so blessed. We had such an amazing response to the interview with you last time, and I reached out and you very kindly agreed, thank you, to come back. So we're so blessed in this group, helping the world sleep better, that Dr. Sue's going to be coming back and doing like a fortnightly slot for the coming weeks, which is great. And we've got an amazing topic tonight. But before we get into the topic, for anybody who's not seen the previous conversation that we had with Sue, because rather than an interview, I think that's what we're having. It's an amazing conversation. I would love to just share with you a little bit about Dr. Sue. Obviously, she's a doctor. But she's also, more important than that, she's a leading consultant health psychologist registered with the Health and Care Professions Council. She's an associate fellow of the British Psychological Society and a registered advanced clinical hypnotherapist with experience helping clients with sleep disorders, chronic pain, and clinical depression for over 20 years. Sue has an extensive track record of supporting clients presenting with sleep disorders. She won a research grant to pioneer her Sleeping with Chronic Pain program from the NHS Health Innovations. And she's also a published author, and you can see some books in the background there. They're all Sue's own work, and have been featured in academia and by the media for her work. She works with an empathetic, professional and practical manner. Of course, you can see that her energy just emanates out from the screen with clients, and recognises the need to support her clients to move forward on a practical level. And Sue has experience of working both in the NHS and private practice. It's a very short but condensed and beautifully rounded. Obviously, everybody who's watching right now, Sue comes with an immense pedigree of background in the topic that she's going to be speaking about. So please, although you can listen to interviews about this from so many people all over the place, this is coming with such a weight of pedigree and application. So I think this is something that will really benefit everybody who's going to watch this. And obviously, if the topic tonight is about helping the elderly and helping the elderly with sleep, we're all hopefully going to get there one day. But if in this COVID-19 situation, you have somebody that you know, that you love, who's self-isolating and they're elderly, then if they're not great with technology, then you can show them this. If you have somebody who has moved in with you recently because of the lockdown, again, this is something you can show them, or you can remember the hints and tips that Sue's going to share with us now and share those with them as well. So the most important thing is that we want this information to get out to as many people as possible. That's the whole mission of this public group, to help the world sleep better and to achieve a good night's sleep. So, Sue, thank you again for joining us.
Well, thank you very much for asking me.
I just keep saying we're so blessed. We are so blessed. And there's a couple of things that we wanted to talk about tonight, but specifically, we've had so many people reach out to me over the past week around this topic and around the elderly. And we've just been having this conversation before we came on, and not many people want to talk about this. And it's really quite interesting because, like I say, we're hopefully all going to get there at one point or not. And especially at this really stressful time, unprecedented times, this is something that the elderly will not have been prepared for, won't have faced into, and they're not great with technology at that age.
No.
So how can we, if we're living with somebody, I'm just looking at why does sleep change with age?
I think that most people sleep between sort of 7 and 9 hours every day, but they don't always all sleep at night. And the research suggests that sort of around 4 in 10 older people have at least one 30-minute nap every day. And that increases to about an hour for people over 80. So at night time, older people tend to take more than half an hour to sleep, the research has showed. And interestingly, that's the case for about 1 in 3 women, but 1 in 6 men. But it's important to remember that changes to our sleep pattern are actually a normal part of the aging process, because as
Yeah.
people get older, they do find it harder to sleep. If you read about it, that's called sleep latency. And also they have trouble staying asleep than when they were younger, and that's what if you read the books, that's what they mean by increased sleep fragmentation.
Okay.
But also changes in our sleep patterns, or you may read it as sleep architecture, but patterns is sums up what it is really, doesn't it? And so changes in those sleep patterns occur, and usually sleep happens in sort of multiple cycles, including sort of periods of light and deep sleep where we don't dream. But then we have that REM sleep where most of our dreams occur. And this cycle is kind of repeated and repeated several times throughout the night. But what the researchers found, although older people sleep the same amount of time, they spend more time in those lighter stages of sleep and have less REM dreaming deep sleep.
Okay.
So that's quite an interesting finding in itself, because we don't always feel as older people that we've had enough sleep, but the actual period time-wise of sleep is actually the same. It's just a different quality of sleep.
Okay.
There's also things like the changes to our body clocks or circadian rhythms that coordinate our timing of our bodily functions, including sleep. So, for example, older people often tend to become sleepier in the early evening and wake earlier in the morning in comparison to, say, younger adults. So sometimes that sleep pattern is shifted forward so that you still get 7 or 8 hours sleep, but the individual still wakes up early.
Yeah.
And the research hasn't really found out why this happens, but often it's related to do with light exposure. So if this becomes a real big problem for somebody, then they would look at treating it with bright light therapy or something like that.
Okay.
And then our hormones all change as we get older, and there's a hormone called melatonin that is produced naturally in the body at night time, which promotes sleep. And so older people produce less melatonin, so they might find it difficult to get off to sleep in the first place. And there's other factors that cause awakening and things like that. So, it's like hot flushes in postmenopausal women. If you need to get up to go to the toilet in the middle of the night or whatever. Pain is another reason for a lot of older people that makes it difficult to stay in one position all night. So it kind of wakes you and disturbs you. And quite often after retirement, people find it quite useful and quite convenient to have a little snooze in the afternoon. So that kind of...
My husband already does that.
Nice if you can, and especially if it doesn't affect your sleep at night. So sometimes having that sort of snooze in the afternoon kind of thing sometimes does affect your sleep at night.
Okay.
So that's kind of a summary really of why sleep changes with age.
No, that makes perfect sense. Yeah, because when you're born, that's pretty much all you do is sleep, and it makes perfect sense that as you go through a life cycle, that your sleep and the amount of sleep that you're going to have is going to change because of what's going on with your body. Yeah, that makes so much sense. Yeah. So whilst we're all in lockdown now, obviously we all have, elderly relatives who, for one reason or another, might be in a place where they're just not. Then the whole sleep routine has been thrown out of the window, and obviously we've had so many people, and you yourself have talked about this as well, about how to calm everything down and this whole stress and that sort of thing. What can we do to improve our sleep as somebody who's elderly? And when we say elderly, do we have an age range for this?
I don't know. I think the nearer you get there, the later it is, isn't it?
I agree. 50 is the new middle age, or maybe it's 60.
I think so. I think, talking past retirement age, so I don't know, towards 70, I'm guessing. And then there's sort of the old, isn't there, that are sort of 85 plus. So and to be fair, it depends when the research was written, doesn't it? And what classification they're putting people in and what age group. So yeah, I'm sure
as
it's
old
going to
as you
get
feel.
older, isn't it? The more we read and the longer we live.
Oh. So we'll go
So,
post-retirement, and then depending on how you feel, whether you feel elderly or not.
absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah,
let's go
age
with
is just
that.
we'll go with age as a number.
Age is just a number.
Absolutely, it's really how you feel, isn't it? But
Yeah.
obviously, joking apart, there are structural changes in your body as the aging process goes on. Yeah, and it happens to us at different times, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So thinking about improving your sleep. I think it's, even though, say, you've moved in with a relative or something like that in during sort of social isolation period, it's important to have time to yourself, I think, because if you're used to living on your own and suddenly being thrown in with the family, whilst I'm sure it's really nice and it's great and it's lovely to have that company, sometimes you do miss that space of your own time to do your own thing.
Yeah.
So I think it's important, if you can, I'm not saying it's possible for everybody, but if you can, try and have about an hour or an hour, a couple of hours to yourself, if you choose to, if you like that kind of thing. If you're happy being in the middle of your family and it's great, that's okay. But sometimes you need that quiet time because you've been used to that quiet time.
Yeah.
Which kind of leads me on to the biggest point, really, is it's about keeping routine. It's about having regular sleeping hours. So it's about trying to go to bed at the same time every night, trying to, getting up at the same time. And sometimes that's a little bit difficult if you've moved into a different family setting. So if you're living on your own, you can pretty much do what you like, can't you? But actually, when you're living with other people, you kind of have to fit in a little bit more. Although, when my mum comes to say, no, the place is yours, it's fine, do what you like, get up, whatever. But I know she doesn't. So she waits for us to get up. So, I'm aware that people do that. So I think it's probably about having that conversation if you're struggling with your sleep, it is probably about having that conversation with your family and say, I'm not being funny or awkward or anything, but I'm really struggling with my sleep. Do you mind if I, go to bed at this time and get up at this time? Most families will be fine because they just want the best for you. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think it's also...
Does that help? Sorry to interrupt you, Sue. I'm thinking about the people who are living in care homes as well. And obviously there's nothing but structure there. So if you don't like structure, it's sort of like also like putting up your hand and saying, I need a bit more flexibility. That doesn't fit with my sleep routine.
Absolutely. I think there's always people, thinking about the care home setting, there's always quite a lot of people there, isn't there? So I'm not sure how practical this is, but if people assess roughly what time people wanted to get up, they could probably mix and match between who gets up between the hours of, I don't know, 7 and 9 or whatever. But like I say, I don't know how practical that is, but that would be an ideal solution if that could work for people.
Oh gosh, maybe we're just transforming the aged care industry as well.
Well, let's hope so. Well, so some of this makes a wee bit of a difference, because that would be good. So going back to the sleeping routine thing about getting up at the same time, I think it's important, even if you've had a rough night's sleep, it's important to kind of get up at the same time. So if you normally get up at, I don't know, 8 o'clock or whatever, then keep getting up at 8 o'clock regardless of your night's sleep. And even if you still feel tired, it sounds really mean, but still get up, because that's okay, because it's about keeping that routine going. So what I'm saying is, don't go to bed too early either. Go when you're sleepy tired, if you can. Sleepy tired is different to kind of just feeling fatigue. Sleepy tired is when you're sort of it's probably me watching 10 o'clock news, when you're kind of nodding like this a bit, and you can feel yourself yawning, rather than just going to bed at 10:30 because everybody goes to bed at 10:30 kind of thing. So try and go when you're sleepy tired, and only aim to spend the amount of time in bed that you intend to sleep in bed, if you see what I mean. So if you sleep for 8 hours, then get to bed at that time, get up at that time. If you happen to wake up early, just think about getting out of bed and start your day. That's okay, because the importance of routine is it and those sleep habits is it strengthens that body clock's sleep-wake rhythm. So
Okay.
because sleep is a learned behaviour, it gets
Mm.
easier. So the more you stick to this sort of routine, although it feels a little bit regimented to start with, if you
Yeah.
stick to it, you're more likely to sleep a bit better.
And what about because obviously we've got people all over the world. So whereas in Australia, now it's sort of like dark outside. Well, it's even darker because of this picture behind me, but it's darker earlier. So people are gradually wanting to go to bed early. Whereas in the UK, obviously you're coming into really long, lovely,
Yes,
beautiful evenings.
this is our
So
lovely time of year.
yes, gorgeous time of year. So is that irrelevant? Should you still be aiming to go to bed at the same time, regardless of whether it's dark outside or light?
I think so. I think it's about keeping that routine, because
Mm.
regardless of when you go to bed, you're still going to roughly have those approximately 8 hours, aren't you? So if you go to bed at, I don't know, 6 o'clock in the evening, you're going to wake up really early, and then it's going to be
Mm.
a really lonely, boring time, isn't there? Because if you switch TV on, it's probably repeats. You've seen them all before anyway. Your family are in bed, so you can't really disturb them. So I would stick to the same patterns if as much as possible.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think,
Okay.
talking about the darkness, I think it's about having that comfortable bedroom environment. So, that
Mm.
it is dark. So we associate darkness with going to sleep. But it's about it's
Mm.
being warm enough. It's about not being noisy, and is it stuffy? Do you need the window open a little bit or something, or is it
Yeah.
cluttered? Because I guess if you've moved in with somebody for this social isolation period, chances
Mm.
are, because it was all a bit of a rush, you didn't always have time to clear out the spare room for your relatives to come and stay. So is that something that, if it's really cluttered and you're feeling that's affecting your sleep, is that something that you can talk to your family about and say, would you mind if we
Mm.
kind of reduce this pile a bit or whatever? Or
Yeah.
can we move the washing and put it somewhere else? Thinking about my spare room. But
Yeah.
so it's about discussions, isn't it, and conversations and communication, I think. I
Okay.
think if it's possible, if you can get out and expose yourself to some sunlight in the morning, that's
Mm.
always good. And even maybe late afternoon. Mind you, it's not going to be that late up for you at this point in time. Yeah. But it's probably about, I don't know, about 5, 6 o'clock here, but it's probably about 4 o'clock, 3 o'clock for you, maybe, I don't know. But yeah, if you can get some sunshine, sunshine is always good, because again, it helps the rhythms of your body clock. I
Okay.
think if you can do some kind of exercise,
Yeah.
I'm not sure I always like the word exercise. Physical activity maybe is better. So, if you go for a walk, do a bit of gardening. If you do like exercise, go out and do some, absolutely, as within your restrictions.
Yeah.
But yeah, be active. Um,
Be active. Yeah. And that's
Absolutely.
physical and mental, Sue?
Yeah, I think so. I think the physical activity is always good, because it kind of wears you out, doesn't it, and makes you tired. But I also think you need that mental stimulation as well, because otherwise your brain just gets a bit bored, doesn't it? And you just go to sleep in the daytime because you can't really be bothered, and then you get a bit low and a bit depressed, and then that makes you sleep even more, or it makes you not be able to sleep even more, and then you become frustrated and anxious, and you kind of get in those cycles. So yeah,
Yeah.
mental and physical exercise is good.
Hmm.
I
Great
think
tips.
I think naps are okay. I think
Okay.
everyone says, "Oh no, don't have naps, don't have naps," but actually, I think although afternoon naps sometimes interfere with your sleeping patterns, and they can be sort of problematic if they're kind of late in the afternoon. But if you
Mm.
have one, I don't know, straight after lunch or whatever, and it's only for, say, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes, then that shouldn't interfere too much with your nighttime sleep. But again,
Okay.
it's a personal thing, isn't it? So it's about making that choice,
Mm.
experimenting a little bit, because I think with all sleep issues, a lot of it is about experiments, isn't it? And about what works for you, trying this, trying that, whatever.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
I think we can give vague guidelines and suggestions, but it's about tailoring it, isn't it, to you individually. Um,
Mm.
I think try to avoid going to bed if you're really full after eating a heavy meal or whatever, or you're hungry, because both of those will wake you up. Um, if you can stop drinking caffeine, smoking, vaping, all that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
2-3 hours before bed, because they tend to be stimulants, so they're gonna make your mind race away, and you'll be ready for action rather than ready for winding down. I think, like for most people, it's about switching off tech if you're into that kind of thing. Just relaxing, winding down. If you can have a nice warm bath about an hour before, great. Or even if you just sort of sit there with a nice sort of hot pack on, just to keep you warm and cosy for a little bit.
That's that's exactly the image I've got going through my mind. Like, you know, my nana sitting on a chair, and she'd got her rug on her, and that was the thing before bed. It would be the hot cup of cocoa, or was it Benja's? I think it was Benja's. And I'm from the UK, and the hot water bottle, and be wrapped in a towel, and she'd sit there with it and that was sort of like the nighttime routine.
And that's key, bedtime routine, absolutely. So if that's what she always did, then that's great, because that was part of her body saying to her mind, okay, this is our bedtime routine, and this is what we're going to do to wind down. So fantastic.
Lovely. Oh, we could continue to chat for hours. It's just
I just love about this.
I just love all of this. So if there was one tip, so imagine we've got a room full of people over the age of 70. There we go. Let's just, age is just a number. Over the age of 70, and they're saying, if there's one thing you would recommend me to try tonight, Dr. Sue, what would it be?
I would say have a routine. I think the routine is it takes a while, absolutely, because all routines do. But once you crack the routine, it will get easier, absolutely.
Okay.
What I'd also say is try all these things, but remember, a good night's sleep is actually vital for health, good health. So if anything concerns you and you've tried all these things and they're not really working, then I would go and have a chat to your GP, because they could refer you to, I don't know, they could refer you perhaps medication on short term, so you break that cycle of not sleeping. They could refer you to a psychologist like me, or if, I don't know, or a counsellor, or all kinds. There's all kinds of people out there to help you, absolutely. So yeah, sleep well, but if it becomes concerning after a while, do seek help.
That's really, really good advice. Really good advice. Well, thank you so much, Sue. And obviously, you'll be coming back in a fortnight. We're having another topic. And obviously, you can see the books in the background for Sue. So if you do want to just look up any of Sue's books, I'm sure all of them are for sale. Sue will be putting some links down below so that you can make your own informed choice. And you can, you know, if you've experienced some benefit having conversation with Sue through here, if you've got any questions, Dr. Sue is so happy for you to just ask your questions below.
Please just ask. No such thing as a silly question, just ask.
I love that. Thank you. Simply tag Sue so that she doesn't miss any of your questions. We wouldn't want you to feel as though you've been ignored. It's a very busy group, a very high interaction group, so we want to make sure that we don't miss your question. And obviously, if you've got any questions for Sue around any of the topics that are coming up, I'm going to post the topics that are coming up as well. And then if you want to ask your questions in advance, that will help Sue tailor the conversation specifically to answer those questions. So thanks very much again for joining us tonight, Sue. It's been an absolute pleasure again.
Thank you very much. Look forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks.
Thank you so much. Okay. I'll see you all very soon.